You know how when you listen to native French speakers, their words just seem to melt into each other? It's this beautiful, smooth flow that can be so hard to get right when you're learning. Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on the secret to that sound. It's all about something called liaison. I mean, this is something that trips up pretty much everybody, right? You see the words il and aime on the page, but what you hear is ils aiment. So where in the world did that Z sound come from? Well, it's not a mistake. It's actually one of the coolest features of spoken French, and we're going to break it all down. So what exactly is a liaison? Honestly, the best way to think of it is like a little sound bridge. It takes a consonant at the end of a word that's usually silent, like that S in eels, and uses it to connect to the next word, but only if that next word starts with a vowel or a silent H. This is the thing that creates that signature, elegant glide in French. Okay, but how does this actually work when you're speaking? Because it's not always as simple as just saying the silent letter out loud. Sometimes the sound itself actually transforms. So let's dive into the 4 main patterns you're going to hear all the time. First up, we've got the heavyweight champion of liaison. Seriously, this is the one you'll hear more than any other. When a word ends in a silent S or X, and the next word kicks off with a vowel, that S or X magically turns into a sharp Z sound. Let's actually hear it. The phrase vous avez becomes vous avez. Deux amis sounds like deux amis. And mes amis links together to become mes amis. Hear that little buzz? That ZZ sound? That's the liaison in action. Okay, this next one's really interesting because it's a complete sound swap. When a word ending in a silent D bumps up against a vowel, that softer D sound actually hardens and comes out sounding like a crisp T. Kind of weird, right? For instance, you would never say quand il arrive. Instead, it's quand il arrive. Same exact thing happens with grand homme, which means a great man. It becomes grand homme. It's a tiny switch, but it's absolutely crucial for getting the rhythm of the language just right. All right, after that last one, our third pattern is thankfully way more straightforward. If a word has a nasal N at the end, like ma or that N sound just gets pronounced to form the bridge. No crazy sound changes here, just a really clean and simple connection. Just listen to how smooth this sounds. Mon ami naturally flows into mon ami. Un enfant becomes un enfant. See, that N just acts as the perfect little hook to join the two words, nice and easy. Okay, let's do a quick recap. A final S or X is going to sound like a Z. A D is going to sound like a T. And an N or a T just carries its own sound right over to link everything up. This right here is your go-to guide for those core sound changes. All right, so we know how the sounds change, but now we get to the million-dollar question. When are you supposed to use liaison? Because, and this is important, you don't do it all the time. There are rules, and knowing them is the real game changer. Really, the most important thing to get is that liaisons are either required or forbidden. The best way to picture it is like a traffic light. You have your green lights, where you absolutely must link, and you have your red lights, where you absolutely positively must not. Let's check out the basic rules of the road. So, let's start with the green lights. This is a big one, a non-negotiable rule. After a subject pronoun, we're talking words like il, nous, or vous, you have to make the liaison. It's not optional. So, ils ont becomes ils ont. Nous avons becomes nous avons. Every single time. The second major green light is between a determiner, and that's just a word like le, mes, or un, and the noun that follows it. Again, this link is totally mandatory. You'll always say les amis or un homme. This connection is just essential to sounding natural. Now for the red lights. When do you hit the brakes? A huge one is after a singular noun. And an even bigger flashing red light rule is this. Never, ever, ever make a liaison after the word et, which means and. So if you say un garçon et une fille, there is a hard stop between those words. They stay separate. Okay, I know that felt like a lot of rules, so you might be thinking, how on earth do I remember all that without freezing up in a real conversation? Well, don't worry, let's boil it all down into a super simple, practical cheat sheet you can use on the fly. So when you're either speaking or listening, just run this quick 3-point check in your head. Look at that first word, the one with the silent consonant. First, ask yourself, is it a pronoun like ils or vous? Second, Is it a determiner like les or un? And third, is it one of those other little essential grammar words? And here is the payoff. If you answered yes to any one of those questions, chances are extremely high that you're in liaison territory. It is a fantastic rule of thumb that's going to be right almost all of the time, and it will make your French sound instantly more natural. So there you have it. We've pretty much cracked the code on liaison. You know what it is, you know how the sounds can change, and you've got the basic rules of when to link and when to stop. The only question left is, the next time you're listening to a French song or watching a movie, can you hear those links? Listen closely. I bet you'll be surprised at how much more you can suddenly hear.